All right. So kind of for the record, this is going to be a little bit off the cuff. It's not going to be very well planned. I don't really have the time to put in a lot of planning, so hopefully hopefully this will be a little bit thought-provoking and invoke some good discussion around application game programming. But the idea here, and I've made a couple of iterations on a voxel engine in the past, and I have pretty good idea of some of the pieces that are involved, and maybe how to mitigate some problems early. So hopefully we'll avoid a lot of the problems. But the first thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to create a GitHub repo, and I'm going to make sure and post this in descriptions here for Twitch, so that we can, anyone who's missed or anything can follow along in the repo. And we're just going to call this let's come up with a slightly clever name. I like it. Previously I had a little project in C++ that was called Voxel. So we're just going to shorten it, call it Rox. Okay. Let's create a README. I'm gonna select an MIT license. We're gonna do this in in CSharp. Well, does it have a C? Does it have a CSharp? That's interesting. There's not a CSharp. How is that possible? I guess Visual Studio. All right, fair enough. So we'll go ahead and create that, and yeah, I love GitHub. So I wanted, I thought that you could create an organization. Huh. This is funny. Buildcraft. That's awesome. Okay. So let me stick to the. Oh, here's I had already made this. Oh, nice. Okay. So here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna create it in this, I believe. spelling email. Okay, never mind. Maybe if I do this later, I'll just move it. What's up, Waffle? Early, man. It's early for you. What time is it? I don't even see. It's 11 o'clock, so it's 10 o'clock there. I just looked. So my work computer is on West Coast time, and it's like 7:57 there, and I was like, ugh. So just so you know what we're doing here. I'm serious. Like, the point of all this is to like liberate. So if you're even kind of interested in like shit, I mean, stuff's gonna be a little bit fast, I guess. I mean, it's not gonna be like snail's pace, but like if you have like any general questions, then just ask them, because I'm not necessarily doing this for me only. Yeah, you know what? Like these are really funny because you want to have like some type of plan going into this, not like an in-depth, like detailed plan, but basically what I've done is on GitHub GitHub is open source. I don't know if you've ever heard of it. It's basically for open source programmers, like to dump code in and they can share, and you can find all sorts of crazy projects, and like people like Facebook, Twitter, all those guys upload all sorts of open source projects and make things available. Google, everyone basically. And so it's a great community driven. Well, at least content. The content is community driven for the most part. Place it is free. I mean, you can have a paid account or whatever. But anyway, the point of it is when I do work, I can just dump it off in the cloud. And yeah, Stack Overflow is like, we're going to be using a lot of Stack Overflow. It's basically programmer's crutch nowadays. And so just for today, we may get more than this done, but I wrote down some very small notes, which are just talk about a little bit about the programming environment, the open source, and then what I'm going to be using that I'm not writing, the code that I'm not writing, and like basically how we're going to build this game kind of ground up. But there's some things, since we're building in like CSharp and all that, you're going to need some additional things. But anyway, so I made this repo. This is Visual Studio 2017 Community. It's also 100% free. It has changed a lot over the years, at least since I've been kind of stuck in 2012. So let's see here. So they have a GitHub. Wow, that's nice. It automatically just logged me in. So they have a GitHub extension that you can basically open a project. It clones it for you. That's actually really nice. Okay. So I was hoping here to a solution. So let's do a new. Oh, are they gonna give me can I make a solution? Didn't really make this obvious. You're gonna find it really funny because I probably struggle more with the tools than anything else. Cause I'm like just getting to that point where I guess we're gonna do a new project here. I don't really care about it running cross-platform. I'm probably just gonna make this Windows only. Maybe eventually one day I'll make it cross-platform, but yeah, no, this is all like right now. I mean, I know what a lot of it is, but it's just so we're not gonna use DirectX. I thought about using DirectX, but I honestly it's been so long since I've done any DirectX work. Like 90% of my experience with DirectX is with audio. I did a bunch of research in college using DirectX audio. But so we're just gonna do a console app, I believe. Although I'm thinking, all right, you know what? Let's before I actually commit to any of this, I'm gonna let's see. So this is where your Stack Overflow. So I want to do I want to use OpenGL. And to use OpenGL, you need bindings for C#. So C# is a basically it's an interpreted language somewhat. It's precompiled a little bit, but it basically runs in the CLR, which is the .NET runtime. So it's basically a virtual machine. It's kind of like Java, and it's just a big runtime and it runs, and then you compile your code, and then when you execute it, it runs inside of this generic virtual machine. So it's not like if you were to write something in C or C++, or there's a million other languages that will run natively to the operating system. So like real programs like EXEs, but like this is pretty much anything I write in this is taking it and packaging it inside of like an executable that will just run it on this virtual machine. Anything .NET. So like popular games, Dark Souls, any of that stuff is that's all DirectX. And Steam provides, I'm sure, a lot of hooks for that. And what did Dark Souls used to use for multiplayer? Wasn't it like the Windows? It was like the Windows. There's an acronym for it, and I can't remember. Okay, so here's a discussion on modern. Here, look, OpenGL with C#. We're just gonna open up all these because I'm really curious. I've heard of OpenGL for C#. SharpGL's one looks like. Dang, they all have really good. They all have really good. That one is almost as a 5. This one has a 5 with 177 votes. Yeah, they use that Windows Media Server or something. Hey, look at this. When was this written? 2014. That's actually pretty good. 2014. SharpGL. Oh, this is the same one. That guy was just reviewing it. Wow. I don't know how crazy I am about the. Well. This actually sounds really, really good. The only thing is it's an extension, and since I'm using the free version of Visual Studio, I don't actually know if I get. Oh, look! This guy created these bindings. He was working on a voxel engine. How interesting. Dang, I'm going to bookmark this because it seems fairly relevant. And maybe this guy will. I'm just gonna put this in. I think I have a, let's see, development. let's see, bookmarks, development. I thought I had a, yeah, there we go, Voxel. Nice. Okay. And this guy, wow. How good this looks. So what you're gonna find really interesting, God, that looks great. He's got like an editor. What a beast. All right, I mean, just from seeing that, this library. So this guy's he's got some common math. Bounding box, frustum, matrix, plane, quadrant. And SDL2. Okay. I won't lie, this sounds great. I think I want to use this. So and the reason I'm saying that, so SDL, well, so I should kind of I mean, don't get me wrong, because I love programmers. I am, and but there's always some baggage that comes with programmers. Where the older you get, the more kind of humble you become, I guess. And it's just there is a general it's definitely a stereotype, but I find it a very 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 accurate stereotype. Yeah, so I mean, so Flappy Bird, it takes some thought. I mean, I find that my biggest hurdle is that I'm not super artistic, and so I find it that's my biggest downfall is having things look nice. That's why I like the idea of a voxel engine, because I don't have to be artistic. Everything's symmetrical. So, okay, so basically the first thing we want to do is we want to grab this guy. I'm going to explain. So a couple things is that it looks okay. So that's OpenGL 4net. That's not the one I was looking at. This is the one I was looking at. So this guy, it looks like SDL2, which SDL is Simple Direct Media Layer. That's what it stands for. It is a very old gaming library. Well, graphics, media library, but games. It's been around forever. I mean, since I can remember being involved in game programming, 100% SDL has been there. It's basically a very nice. Now it's I'm 90% sure it's cross-platform. You basically write code once and it'll kind of run anywhere, sort of thing. But it gives you APIs when API is like something that you can call and get something from. So like keyboard input, mouse input. It handles all the like window creation, all of the really like kind of fine grained details you don't want to deal with when you're writing a game. You don't want to have to worry about creating a window and attaching the OpenGL context to the window and all these other extra setup steps. So SDL is a very nice library that's really small that will do all that stuff for you without even really having to worry about those details, and you can focus on like making the game. Like it's that easy, like a couple lines. So this is really easy. There's this nice tool with Visual Studios called Nougat. This project could be downloaded, install package, OpenGL platform. You must still download and install SDL for your own respective operating system. Okay, so it sounds like I need to get SDL regardless. So we'll go ahead and get this. This is actually really easy to do. So I'm just gonna call this. We'll call this rocks. Okay. Well, I don't think that actually created the project inside of my. It didn't, did it? No, of course it didn't. Well, I really want to. Why did they make this so difficult? I guess I'm gonna have to add it to. Actually, it was what? It was in my home directory source, repos, rocks. Make it. We don't want to create a directory for the solution, but we do want to make a new solution, and we just want to put it here. And of course, it still made a directory for the solution. Okay, let's try this again. Actually, that may not be bad. That is actually what I want. Okay, never mind. That is what I want. What's interesting though is well, I'm not going to mess with this for too much longer. I'm trying to get it set up so that the GitHub or the Git repo is lined up with the. Okay, so here it is. So it actually is, but I can just go to the solution that way. Okay, great. Where's the good? The good. So I hate. We're just gonna call this rocks. Main. Yes. Lo and behold, I like making things public. It also always bothered me that the usings were always outside of the namespace, but whatever. All right, so what I need is I need to find package manager console. So that's right here. There's two ways you can install third-party packages. You can right-click the project and go to like manage Nougat packages. Nougat. Ted. And then you can search for them here. This actually looks. I'll probably use JSON for like configuration, but we can do that completely different day. These are just all like common. We probably will use inlog. I don't want pre-releases. So like inlog is just something nice for logging. It's just a nice little logging framework. I'll go ahead and add that. And so you could just find like different packages that you'll use, and it's really nice now. So I'm just going to browse this like one time through. Configuration file. Whatever. All right, I don't think I need any of this immediately. So let's go here, and I honestly like the console. And so I looked earlier, and so this is Giallo, OpenGL. This is what we're gonna at least try this initially. I like this guy's approach. Sounds like it works pretty well, so we're gonna do that, and then we're gonna install the optional package.
Come on, kill me! I'm here.
Did I just hear the follow alert? Because it didn't last very long. Oh yeah, I did. Thanks, Bobby. Appreciate the follow, man. This is day one, so we're still kind of figuring out the difficulties. All right, so all the fun red. So how did it say that it doesn't exist when I just rolling back? What is it mad about? You were trying to solve this package in a project targets 452, but the package does not contain an assembly compatible with that framework. So what? This is where probably the GUI will help. So if you click it here, it'll only tell you what it's compatible with. Version 1.4? I don't really understand. Net standard and net. So I wonder what. I don't really know what my assembly info. So how's it not compatible? Four 4.5.2. For more information, contact the package author. I don't really know why it's not .NET Standard version 1.4. Normally it will just automatically pull down this package could be used but can only be run using the desktop 4. Huh. I hate getting tripped up this early on something so small. I mean, it's clearly how it has to do with how I have my project targeting .NET 4.5.2. Maybe I should target like the latest. Yeah, look, it's actually really angry at me now about that. Go back to 4.5.2 then. So I do have, I thought I had. All right, that one's already existed. This one is mad, but the package does not. Okay, so what does that package contain then? Inlog's fine. So what does it contain then? Search here. Okay, so maybe this is what I need. Let's try this. It's doing something. You mean like actually modify? Like modify APKs? So you're most likely gonna have a hard time doing that, especially probably reassembling it, because any APKs are gonna have security layers, or has like a security context. Basically, it's APK is just a zip, I believe. That I don't know. I don't know if it's read or write protected. But what you would want to do is like if you really wanted to like dig down into an APK, you could find a way to unzip or unarchive the APK file, and then that's going to give you probably a bunch of art or resources, config files, that sort of thing, that are probably encrypted, and a bunch of jars, .jar files, and .jar files are Java class files, and you can use there's a good one, I can't remember, decompiler for Java. You just type in Java decompiler, this is it, JD project. And then you could drop jars into there, and it'll basically give you a variation of the source code. So, okay, so if they're using, I should have explained this. So if they're using Unity to make a game, they're using Unity 3D, because that's the only reason why assembly C# would be in there. And if you're using Unity, if they're using Unity to make a game, I think it's .peak. So .peak is the .NET decompiler. So you would get that file. If you had that file, you would just get .peak, and you could drop that DLL inside of this application, and it'll give you a variation of the source code. Now, it's not perfect. Like anything that's decompiled is going to be a distant cousin of the stuff that was actually compiled, but it's close. And so to some degree, you can actually get the idea of what someone's doing. I find it like if there's an undocumented piece of software that you're trying to figure out why it's behaving a certain way, that this sort of application will come in handy, because you can actually get some sort of visual idea of what the authors were trying to do. So now that if I have this installed now, I feel like I should be able to install this, but of course not. But the package does not contain the assembly for that. So this is what's aggravating about this. This is telling, these are the dependencies. .NET Standard Library. I just installed this package. Wait, what did it say? It needed .NET Standard greater than 161. And I think that I just installed .161. So I am pretty curious as to how yeah, I'm a little lost. We can continue and I can try to figure this out later. I just don't understand. It's saying that it doesn't have I have this. I have this. Okay. .NET is in such a very sad state right now. So I wonder how to target. It's making this really difficult. I feel like this could be super simple. So it says that it's missing. Is there a project type that's net standard? Oh. It's only for class libraries though. All right. I want to check one other thing. Visual Studio Installer. Maybe I opted out of that in the installer. Yeah, you know what? Like, truthfully, a lot of times just getting started, this is why we don't have a whole hell of a lot of programmers. I mean, there are definitely a lot more than there were 10 years ago, but we constantly, as in developers, experienced developers, are constantly reorganizing, restructuring, completely destroying the basis of all that they've built in the past. And so it makes entry into one of these things. I mean, even for someone who's like my current job is writing server-side CSharp code for NCSoft. And I'm struggling to make a new project that fulfills some need. I mean, it just shows you. It's just somewhat ridiculous. So .NET desktop, Cross-platform, mobile development. Okay, this is probably what I'm missing. So let's back out of there. It's intimidating, but I'm telling you right now, the hardest part is setting up your environment. But once you've set it up, if you put it off, or if you're just like, I'll just work through it and come back to it later, it becomes like this burden that you just kind of carry through your whole project. And if you don't actually like address it when you come across it, it's a nightmare to deal with later. So as long as Visual Studio is actually going to close, oh man. I just want to read through this just a bit. So what .NET is going through this whole change where they basically have taken this standard that they had for .NET, which was basically a Windows only runtime. And Microsoft had a huge campaign where they said, we want to make things cross-platform, we want to make it work for Linux, we want to make it work for Macs, we wanted to run everywhere, we wanted to run on mobile, etc., etc. And they kind of pulled back the curtain and they started extracting things out of the Windows.NET that could be cross-platform. And they started rewriting and reworking. And so when that happens, you start pulling back all these dependencies and all these things change, and you have copies of like libraries that only work for a certain version, and you just have this complete nightmare of version spaghetti going on. And that's pretty much the state of .NET currently. This guy says OpenDK. I'd heard everybody says OpenDK, but let's see. That's going to be my fallback. I'm going to go to OpenDK if I'm going to need this. I am going to need this. OpenDK will. Oh, look at it. I like SFML or whatever. That's actually a newer. It's supposed to be like a replacement for SDL. There's so many different bindings. I don't really understand what's the difference. There's probably not. I didn't even hit modify. So this shouldn't take too long. Famous last words. Yeah, basically it's overcomplicated. If you can just imagine like a diagram that has like little blobs with version numbers and then just dependencies coming out of that, it's just a giant spider web. And there are things that are backwards compatible, so like it's not one-to-one for everything. But basically it's just really hard. Like if you run into a problem or a conflict, that's really the one you have to watch out for. Like conflicts between existing libraries, like you want to include this library, but it only supports this and this. You also want to use this library, but it supports this and this, which are incompatible with the other thing. Then you have this conflict. And typically what happens is when you include the libraries initially, there's no conflict and everything's happy. But then it wants you to update and you're like, hey, I like these new features. I'm going to update my library, and then you update it, and then the dependencies change, and then you have conflict. And so it's like, that's where the painful experience is, because then you have to worry about like rolling back, like figuring out how to remove some of these things. Having to deal with the Visual Studio installer just sitting here telling me it's acquiring something, and oh, there we go. I also got this Nintendo dev interface we can look at while this is installing. But I won't lie, I feel like the Nintendo people have no idea what indie development's about at all. Web credentials. It's pretty interesting. I haven't looked too in depth into it, but I have EverQuest installed on this machine. How tempting it is to play games. This is taking forever. Okay. So I wish I could open Visual Studio, then I can actually do something while that's installing, but I'm not going to be able to. So let me go back here and read just a bit. Where did my browser window go? So that's Sharp. This is Sharp GL. That's the one I'm going to keep in mind if this doesn't work. But this guy being that he basically approached the whole project in his description on his blog the way that almost exactly the way that I would approach it, and so I feel like it's in the best interest to kind of stick to that. Glute. So he's using glute. So this is I do need this library that I'm trying to install. I'm not even going to worry about UI for right now. Wow. This guy. This is great. This is awesome. UI in OpenGL or in any sort of like three-dimensional game is nothing short of a pain in the ass. All right, this thing, I believe, is bugs. Launch. Okay, let's try this again. Because I really, really, really want to get into something today. Just something. Solution? Okay, so I wonder if now... This is what I don't understand. Does it need to be a Windows? What was this guy? So maybe let's get this and then let's build it and see if we can see if that's the way to oh man. So let me I can open this Visual Studio. I don't want to open it in I want to open it in Visual Studio 2017. Thank you. Just download the zip. It'll be easier. Let me just drop this guy on a desktop. What was I replacing? So this is gonna kind of stink, I think, but let's see here. So I should be able to mix platforms. So I should be able to rebuild this. Okay, I do need it to be properties. Wait, why are no properties? Okay, so let's do 462. That's like the latest one that I have installed here. And we'll compile rebuild solution. Then I'm gonna uninstall the NuGet package here. There it is. Uninstall this. And instead of using this, we'll just this should have built something like OpenGL bin debug. Here we go. So what I'm going to do here is was it sources? Source. I'm going to create a new directory here where I can just dump these libraries. We'll call it labs. There's that, and OpenGL platform. That's both. I believe that had the SDL bindings in it, so all we need now is SDL 2.0. I think we just need the binaries. This is the SDL download page, and I'm just going to grab the runtime. So all I need is the runtime libraries, I think. And this is the 32-bit. And I just need to copy it over into here. Actually, this needs to be copied to output, I believe. So let's see here. Let's see how I can do this. So to add those, need to go to reference, add reference, browse, and then I'm gonna pick the where I just saved all that stuff. So what I did was I downloaded the project for the OpenGL stuff straight from that guy's GitHub page. I built them on my machine, which is typically if you run into a problem with like getting any sort of like pre-packaged stuff, you should get the source, build it on your machine. Then I copied and pasted the library output, the libraries that it created when I compiled it, into a libs folder on my machine, or for our project. And I'm going to now just import them or tell our project that it's using these things. Do I need to add the STL? Maybe. Yeah, so the STL it's a native DLL. And so I actually need to, how do I do this? I need to make sure that this is included in the project, and I need to set it so that it's always copied to the output directory. And so this guy had an example on his page, and I'm just going to try to just make sure that it runs. Let's just see if this works. This is a naive example. So in our main, we'll just I believe I need a we'll just make it. No, we don't want it to not implemented. Why that is the worst. Oh, I need to also update my framework to 4.6.2. It's angry, it's angry. Unable to load STL2 could not be found. So that's a sign that we're actually making progress. So basically it looks like the OpenGL library is loaded, but it could not find STL2, and that's why. Because it copied it to libs. Yeah. Okay, so it looks like I'm gonna exclude this. I'm gonna put this. I could probably do some sort of like custom. You know, let's see if we can do that. Build events. What I want to do, I'm gonna. God, this is probably dot. I think it's CP. This is funny. I don't know batch. Let's see. Copy file and DOS. It's just copy. What are the? Okay, here. Copy. Wait, is it X copy? I've heard of X copy. Is that better? Suppresses, use short enough. short destination. Okay, so copy source destination. We'll just say binary file. I don't think it really matters. So we'll copy, and then what was it? /b source, which, let's see, we're gonna go with solutioner. From solutioner, libs SDL2, and we're gonna output it in, I think there's one called builder. Yes, insert. Okay, probably SDL2.dll. Okay, so what this is this should copy that DLL to the location that it thinks it's gonna to be at before it. Now it's pissed. Why did it? What is this supposed to be in? Is it not post build commands? Visual Studio. God, I hate some things that Microsoft does. It's a post build command. It's like all I needed to do is copy a damn file. Why doesn't this work? Why doesn't copy work? Well, that looks like that should work. Copy. So why doesn't it? Maybe I should do Xcopy, and maybe I should probably use quotes. I don't know. This is ridiculous. So Xcopy, I'm just not going to use. Let's use quotes just to be sure. And then, okay, save, start, of course. What in the hell is the problem? Maybe it's not happy with outdir. Okay, yeah, let's try this then. So solutioner outdir SDL. Okay, dirt. Of course, it's not going to. So what I'm curious about is if I run this, I run this command like in a command window, and then cdc, what is it, cd sources, rocks. So this is where it should run probably, maybe, I don't know. Oh, do I need to specify F? How do I make it? Let's see, X copy. Oh, no, what is it? How do you force? Force. How do I get it to? It's a Y. Okay, that's what it is. So I'm gonna do /y/f. Brilliant. So maybe now this will work. Maybe. We'll see. Famous last words. Y and F. Sorry if anyone has been chatting. I have not looked up yet. Hooray! We have a window. So I'm kind of everything recently. So I've spent probably the last 4.5 years in C++, doing cross-platform like iOS, Android, and native development, and then just recently I've moved to full-time server-side developer for NCSoft and CSharp. We're doing a lot of CSharp. So this is my practice. And I've been in the C# gig for about 6 months, and I have probably 5 or 6 years total combined experience in C#. But languages change. So I'm ecstatic. We have a window. Now let's see if we can make it like draw something. So we can just grab like maybe a simple example. So here's Vertex Shader. So for those of you guys who don't know much about programming, or for that matter, OpenGL programming, is when you draw something to the screen, you basically, as the program, you are providing the geometry for the objects, and you are allowing, you are basically allowing shaders, which use a completely different programming language, but it's a very simple programming language. It looks like this. And these shaders are just text, and they are actually compiled by your program, and they are uploaded to the graphics device. You have two types. You have Vertex Shaders and Fragment Shaders, and the Vertex Shaders are basically what project the individual vertices of the geometry, and then they basically pass this projection to the Fragment Shader, and the Fragment Shader fills in between the vertices to make it look pretty. And so, and they are super fast. Much faster than like rendering on your CPU. So that is the common go-to. So that's the SDL, that's the CS wrapping. And that was actually a good page. I'm gonna have to Google that again. What I was looking for was just a OpenGL net. I think it's .net. My first language, was Visual Basic in, I have to think about this for a second, 1996, 95? Sorry, it was Basic. I started out in Basic when I was about 10 or 11. Quick Basic, which was a version of, if you want to slime, you can probably find images. Wow, I'm getting old. So, oh, I can't. This is too much of a blast from the past. Oh no. A doorbell. My doorbell rang. Hold on. This guy needs a signature. I'll be right back. Phew. It's raining. Oh man. What's up, Bo? Yeah, so this was my first language. I started out there and I went to Visual Basic. Yes. Yes, it's a good path. I need to get in shape. I'm struggling. Anyway, so yes, C++ and Java in general are going to give you a really good basis for OOP. C++ is, since it's so primitive and so down to the metal. Shut the hell up, Bo. Since it's so close to the hardware, it's going to give you a good fundamental understanding of, you know, all the low-level aspects of programming. And then Java is just, you can't beat it. Java just brings C++ closer to the more modern era of programming. And in my opinion, though, I like C# better than Java. That's just my personal opinion. I was a Java programmer for a long time. Still kind of am. So if you guys are interested, show some nice posture. Programmers don't have good posture, Bo. This is just a general. This is just kind of some random nonsense that I've thrown together over the years. I did a lot of Flash programming too for a while. Java Ray is like a little ray tracer written in Java, but you know, nothing too crazy there. Anyway, so back to kind of our Fragment and Vertex shaders. He gives you some pretty basic ones to use, like as an example. I'm just going to copy and paste them. he has, let's see, what else is he doing? He has his little shader program. Oh, that's pretty nice. You can pass both the Vertex Shader and the Fragment Shader to this program. He has a little thing where you can set the color value, which is gonna set it to blue, RGB 001. And then he's got a little this is the render loop. This probably needs to be done. So my width here, we'll create some variables. Height 720, width, height, Annie, my dog, I'm telling you. So width divided by height. So I will go through and explain some of this. Right now I'm just gonna hustle through it. Let's see. Actually, I hate everything being static, so hold on. So I'm just gonna make this this class instance based. I'm going to let's see, we'll just make like a little init function. So, all right, so I have a lot of opinions about Unity, and most of them are good. Most of them are good opinions. But I think one of the things with Unity is this: is that with any sort of other traditional approach to writing a game or architecture, whatever you're doing, one of the major pros in kind of keeping it free is that you can loop in all these, and I'll explain what I mean by free in a second. I don't actually mean cost, but like keeping it free of hard dependencies. But basically, you're able to like mold and sculpt and replace and do whatever as you kind of write your program. And you can freely architect it the way that you want to write it. And, you know, there's certain things that like certain developers value different things when they're writing code. For me, it's very much about self-expression. And I know that sounds super like cliche and artsy, but it's true. Like people pick, hey, this is my favorite language, programming language, not because like the syntax is whatever, or you know, it's self-expression. It's how you feel comfortable sharing your brain. I mean, because this is what this is basically. Is you're just kind of like you're just brain dumping in text, and people are coming through and reading it and stuff like that. So for me, it really is. It's a form of self-expression, and when you go through Unity, you have to conform to Unity. I mean, that is your platform, and you are confined to that platform, and for good reason. Like the thing is like you can't argue that what they're doing, restriction-wise, is harmful, because it's not. It's because they have to, in order to like provide a platform that does what it does, and as well as it does it, they have to. You know, it's just for me. Unity feels too constrictive. You just have to. There's certain rules. You have to kind of like tiptoe around in a few areas. You have to maintain, like certain things can't be used on separate threads. Like any of their classes that are like built into their graphics libraries, you can't make them concurrent. You know, and to be fair, like they do a really good job optimizing all that stuff anyway, and it's more good than bad for sure. but for me personally, like when I think about like Unity and stuff like that, I just automatically have this sinking feeling that I'm gonna have to start messing with the editor and importing assets and having to like understand the graphic side of it, and the whole idea of composition that they have is terrible. Really, if I had to pick one thing that I hate the most about Unity, it's that they have this composition, which composition as a design pattern is really prominent and nice, and there's a million different reasons to use it over like, you know, these giant subclasses and these huge subclass trees and stuff like that. But like, they don't use composition correctly. It's just wrong, and it drives me crazy. And you end up with you end up writing worse off code because of it. And so that's just my take. I could go on and on about how good it is, how bad it is, whatever. It's in general, I like it, but I feel like you learn much more and you get more out of being able to kind of, you know, architect it on your own. You don't learn anything really with Unity, because everything pretty much, I mean, if you do learn anything, it's you learn how to do it in Unity, and that's it. I know that was lengthy, but like, I don't want to come off in the wrong way, because I think that Unity is a great, unbelievable tool, and the fact that they you are very openly supportive of indie developers is insanely awesome. And I don't have enough good, there's so many good things about Unity. So we're just going to do something kind of silly right here, and we're going to allow this static main to do the work for us. We're going to make so we're going to make our shader program and whatever else. We'll make a cube. Oh, what is that? What does create cube return? Oh, it's Vertex returns a VAO, which is a vertex array object. And I believe that I had a feeling I did that. So let me grab these shaders again, because I hosed them. So, no! Shift insert, bad. I'm on a different keyboard than I normally work on, it's interesting. Nice, dude. So, yeah, I did a prototype, kind of what I'm going to be implementing in CSharp. I did a full prototype in C++, and yeah, I mean, I dealt with, and the prototype, I was very adamant about having it run in Linux, OS X, Windows. I did not go for mobile, although it crossed my mind. But yeah, I wrote a lot of raw OpenGL, and I just don't really feel like hooking up all the interrupt calls. Although I'm sure to some degree, I'm also using SDL for input, so I won't be using any interrupt there either. Yeah. So like really what we're gonna start off doing here is I really want to get into it. That's why if I rush this beginning phases, like we're gonna have this, I'm basically gonna upload these to like a YouTube channel. It's gonna be, I'm putting everything on GitHub. So like if you guys are here at this time and like you want to learn, you can follow along. If you miss a day, whatever, you want to go back and watch it, you can. I'm going to keep all of this stuff available for anyone who's interested. I'm not going to try to close the door. I'm not going to work on it unless I'm streaming. It's all going to be done raw and uncut, and you're going to get to see, you know, a quote-unquote experienced developer struggle a lot, because I think it's important. I mean, no one sits down and writes great code from the get-go. No one does, and you're going to see how much shit I write, and then go back, and the important thing is really going back and iterating or improving on what you did before that doesn't look so great, that you can improve, because it's one of those necessary steps that I think developers often skip because they can. You can skip, right? You can say, okay, I don't really feel like making this better right now. I want to add new things. And that's fine. You can. You're allowed that, you know. And in most cases, you're not going to find too many like problems with that at first. What were those dimensions again? I can't even remember. What was it? 1280 by 720. Okay. So we'll just do rocks main. And let's see, how do we best do this? Since it creates the window, I think that the application context is just completely based on the window being alive. So that's fine. So we have width and height, we'll call it init in our constructor here. So all I've really done here is, this could really be a separate file, but for right now, we'll keep this right here, and I'll go back and move it later using something like the refactoring. So here's our main. This is our entry point into the program. We'll do a little bit of commenting here. Vertex Shader, Fragment Shader, and window dimensions, shader program, and Q vertex array object. And then this is, we can just call this our main class for rocks main entry. And then initialize GL window shader and cube vertex array object. So I should make these floats and not ints, because it will make it easier to deal with. Will make it easier to deal with this later, and that means we have to change the parameter types here and initialize, and then width, height. So this call is just we'll just call this GL test. What is it mad about? Of course this wants. All right, I'm going to backtrack. So I'm going to back it out. I'm going to keep these as ints, actually. Nope. Okay, I'm going to keep these as ints. Sorry about that. I got confused. I'm going to keep these as ints. This wants ints. This is where it got strange. So this is actually going to create our camera. At least our perspective field. Matrix 4. We'll call this perspective. Actually, this is So I think the FOV is 45. So we'll just, this is our projection. This is our projection matrix. The float cast is here. You just cast it. You're just casting it as a float. And let's check out the parameters here because I want to. Yeah, so field of view is the first one. Aspect ratio is the second, which is just our width, the width of our window divided by height, and the Z far is is the clipping plane for the Z axis. Oh yeah? Wait. Auto scene switcher? How does that work? Is it an OBS thing? Can you not see? Or would it just be helpful to like zoom in whenever I'm typing? Automatic scene switcher. What do I do? No. Oh, dude, that actually looks really cool. I see what you mean. So I could say, I'm gonna spend some. I'm gonna take that. I'm gonna take that advice because I think that sounds really neat. So it looks like you could set up multiple scenes, and like so I can actually like create a scene of just like the code view. Is that what you mean? And basically, as I as I move in and out of, I can set some kind of trigger that will move in and out of scenes. I'm gonna figure that out. I'll get to the bottom of that stuff. So okay, so this is our field of view, and this is 45F. I think some games I think most games use 90%. We'll just keep it at 45 for now. That's keeping, so moderate. And then we're gonna make, this is our aspect ratio, and this is gonna be our float width divided by height. Maths class, this is why you pay attention in math. So our Z near, this is our Z near plane, and this is 0.1F. That's really close. And then our Z far plane is it's 1,000. I think it's just, all that is clipping distance, I think. So projection variables, and this is our matrix, and we're just gonna field of view. These can actually be, it might yell at me. No, it's not. Yeah, it is gonna yell at me. Yeah, I thought it was. Never mind. We'll keep them normal. Really, we would want these to be constant values, but since we have this dynamic aspect ratio, then we can't really do that. So no big deal. So aspect ratio, Z near plane, and then Z far plane. And then we want to create a translation, and all this is where we're going to be in the world. And you have to imagine, I'm trying to think, OpenGL is left. I got to remember this. OpenGL coordinates, I think, are left-handed. I think these are great. I mean, this is what we just did right here. These are great visuals for this. By the way, I'm just at learnopengl.com. So you can kind of see this is the way that we're going to project the camera is going to be. Your camera's basically got a position, and it's got this projection of how you see everything in the world. And our perspective matrix here is a little bit different. Like if you were to create UI and you want things to look like you were looking like a shadow box, like a box that's very, it doesn't feel real. It just seems like everything's just kind of flat. That's not a good description. Strike that from the record. But basically, what you're going to get from orthographic is completely perspective. Makes you feel kind of immersed in the area. It gives you kind of a wraparound like view of the things around you, of the geometry around you. I was looking for the coordinate system, and maybe I'm just too old and don't remember. Positive X to the left, positive Z into the screen, positive Y up. So I think that's lefty. Right-handed. It's right-handed. Positive X. How do you do this? I can't remember. Hold on. There are all these cool okay. So here's the difference. This is perfect. This is sort of the graphic that I was looking for here. Why is that image dead? Oh, you're killing me. So I forgot. Left-handed seems to be the more intuitive, I believe. I was looking for the Wikipedia. Here it is, right-hand rule. And this will explain it. Thumbs up. I thought it was like a... Anyway, so the point is basically, it just depends on how you view the world. So like this comes into effect later on when you're talking about movement and like which way you want to move. And if you think about like the way you're facing and stuff like that, you kind of need to know how, when you create a vertice, where it is in the world relative to where you are is based on the coordinate system. And the coordinate system is kind of, I think it's mainly an implicit sort of structure that it's just as long as you keep things consistent, it's not a problem. So you can kind of do that whatever way you want to, I believe. But I think for our sake, I think all of these math libraries are going to use a right-handed coordinate system. The one thing that's constant in both left-handed and right-handed is I'm not going to make this. I'm not going to make this general statement, but I'm pretty sure that both. Okay, that is what it is. Both. So you like Z up. I think both of these are Z up, right? Or no, these are both. Thumb is Z. Curled fingers extended. So what uses that? What uses the Z? What uses Z up? I guess for our cases, Z is going to be into the screen. It's our depth. I've used something with Z up before, and it didn't feel wrong, but I can't remember. Can't remember what that was. So this is a matrix 4, and this is a translation matrix. This is positioning. This looks like we're just we're going to rotate it. Let's see, rotation. This is going to be I guess this is like, it's like Euler rotation, I guess. I don't know. Matrix 4, rotation. Let's see what the axis and angle. So that's just the angle. This is a positive X and negative Y, so it's right-handed coordinate system, so I think it's, I don't know, we're going to see. Negative Z. This sounds like it's using, so we're moving backwards. We're moving off 2 and up 2 and then back 10. So I'm breaking all this down so that we can kind of toy with it a little. Position. So let's see, create translation, and we're going to do position, and then we're going to multiply. Oh, no, that's why. Stupid. Vector 3. And then we're going to rotate it. So multiply, I'm sure here is overloaded operator. You can see right there that's for multiplication. It's going to actually perform a matrix multiplication. And then here's we want our shader program to be our instance variable. So our shader, and then instead of using the program, we're going to use shader here and here and here, and this is going to be cube. And then we're going to set the values here. So we compile, when you create this shader, it is going to go ahead and compile it for you. And I'm guessing if it doesn't compile or it doesn't go well, I think Blender is where I think you're yeah, that's exactly what it is. I think Blender, any Blender that I've used, that's where Z-up is where, that's at least where I'm familiar with the Z-up. So let's see here. We're going to move this to where it's relevant. So we have our shader. We create our projection matrix. We have kind of a rotation that we want to use for our camera. We want to position ourselves, and then we have we create a translation matrix, which is basically our translation, our position, rotated. So we multiply it by the rotation, and these values are uniform matrices. They're variables inside of our shader, our vertex shader. And you can set the values in code using this guy. So projection matrix, and then we're going to set, we got to first, let's do that, set the color. Actually, you know what? We're going to set the color before we render here. So this is actually going to, color is going to reference color inside of our fragment program. And once we demonstrate that this is actually working, we can go through and start tinkering with it a little bit. So our model view matrix is going to be our translation matrix. We're going to set the color to blue. We're going to create a cube. This is interesting. So we pass it our shader. That's interesting. Why does this need a shader program? I guess to attach the... And so we're going to call this public void run. While, and these are unnecessary because I'm using these. While window open, window handle events, and on render frame. And our render frame is going to need to draw, and this is done by, oh, here. So on render frame is going to width, height. We're going to clear the screen. So this basically tells our program to use the cube geometry. This will draw it. And why is this? We don't have loop. Why not? Do we somehow use the OpenGL.platform? Window. Okay, it's window swap buffers, I believe. Yeah. So our run loop here is just going to handle incoming events like did I exit the window, whatever. It's going to handle all our events and then it's going to render. And the render is just going to set the viewport to the width and height of the window. It's going to clear everything and then it's going to draw. Well, we're setting the program, that shader program, to be used. We're going to draw the cube and then we're going to swap buffers, which basically what happens is you draw to one buffer and then you flip it and then you draw to the next buffer and then you flip it. So it's a smooth transition from one to the other. As fast as humanly possible right now, since it's in a nice little while loop. Unless this has some sort of like built-in throttling. Explosion! All right. Basically, I expected such a thing. Why is it trying to delete? Something's going out of scope. What is it going out of scope? What is this? How is the VAO going out of scope? It's not. Oh, it's because it's starting and it's dying immediately. Whoops. Yeah. So rocks.run. Hey! That CPU though. We have a blue cube rotated. Why is this so mad? It's so mad about delete vertex, but what? Huh, so do I need to... Do I need like a dispose here? Why is this so mad? I don't understand. To read or write protected memory. What do you mean? What does it do? We're baby steps there. We don't just jump into making a full-time game immediately. We're gonna get there. Oh, this is cool. It's a very Unity-ish. We may, once we kind of establish this, we may venture into something like this because this seems really neat. But then again, if you have something that does it all for you, you don't really learn a whole lot, do you? No, but that actually does look really cool. And I may actually check that out just for my own personal interest. Oh, so this is coming from GL delete buffer. Delete buffers. GL delete buffers. I'm guessing. What does this do? Handle events. Does it return anything? All right, on close callbacks, what are these? Actions. So we definitely don't want to add that inside the loop, but maybe at this point we'll dispose. Although I'm a little bit irritated about that actually throwing inside that library and why it actually throws like that. I'm not really sure. Wait a second. Is that actually called from? Oh, that's a VBO, not a VAO. What is the VBO? Yeah. For some reason, I was thinking it was the cube that was exploding, but this looks like. Disposed children? Just. And dispose element array equals true. There's got to be a reason why you have to set this up like this. Nope. Okay, so actually this is VAO though. Delete vertex arrays. This is really confusing. It's not giving me much of a. It's not really giving me much of a stack trace here. That's kind of what's annoying me. Because I can't really tell what. So maybe, let's see, maybe stuff that's uses this iDisposable pattern is ridiculous. It's got to though because it's using unmanaged resources, but yeah, I can't try catch it because it's in it's called from the destructor. And the destructor is called from the garbage collection, which could be on any thread randomly. I can't try catch it. I mean I could do like I could use like thread. I think there's a way to like set an unhandled error handler or something like that on a thread, but so let's just think about this. So qval, I think we want to dispose children. Yes, and we definitely want to dispose element array true. And it seemed like this actually did something. Okay, it did. So what's happening is that our window is dying and therefore our OpenGL context is dying. And then all of our other objects that were attached to that context are dying and it's trying to delete them, but the context is dead. And that's why we're getting unprotected like memory exceptions. So the idea is that thank you garbage collection, but because we're using OpenGL and unmanaged resources a lot, we're going to have to actually dispose of we're going to have to dispose of the shader and then the vertex object, and then we have no more exception. Bam. I don't even think this is necessary. So it is necessary. So So this is what happens. We create a window. We'll do it right here. This creates a window. Inside of this Windows APIs to create window. Create OpenGL context. Attach OpenGL context to window. 2. Run loop. The run loop, I guess you could just say it basically checks for window existence and handles incoming events. We'll say input events and renders scene, flip buffers. 3 on window exit. Destroy window. And destroy OpenGL context. So this is what's happening. There's a middle step here for us. Basically, we create the window. I mean, this is dumbed down really, really far for us. But basically, this create window does a lot of stuff. Yeah, so that's kind of the way this works. Okay, so I'll explain this. Garbage collection is not any sort of order. Like if you try to predict garbage collection, you're going to run into problems. But you need to organize your program in a way that is able to. Most of the time, you're not going to have to worry about this. The only reason that you have to worry about this at this point is because .NET, anything CSharp related uses. Thank you, Little Angry Spaceship, for the follow. I appreciate it, man. Anything that uses unmanaged resources, and by that what I mean is OpenGL is a native library. OpenGL DLL or whatever. It's a native library. The way that CSharp uses that DLL is by using interop, which is basically my C# code can call things on this DLL. And when things are native, because C# is a managed language, in other words, it creates like objects in this virtual machine. That way it can keep track of all of them, it can garbage collect them, it can do whatever. Those are managed objects. Anything that's native to the operating system is unmanaged. Basically, there's no garbage collection for C++ or any of those unmanaged resources. So if you use unmanaged resources inside of a managed object, you have to use this ridiculous pattern in C# called the iDisposable. And it is a way to clean up unmanaged resources when your managed class is garbage collected. So I know that's kind of a handful there, but essentially what's happening is we're creating the OpenGL context, and then anything we create after that is going to have a relationship to that context. So when we create the cube, when we create the shader, all of those things are going to create objects that are related to that OpenGL context. And the context, that OpenGL context, I should specify here, that is what basically maintains our application's line of communication with the graphics card. is in kind of a naive explanation. That's about as close as you can get. It's basically the thing that says, for this application, we're going to use OpenGL. Like, it's going to connect you to the graphics card, pretty much. And then that OpenGL context is associated with the window. And that's how you can move the window, and the OpenGL context kind of follows it and all that good stuff. So what's happening is when our program exits, when we hit the X on the window, the underlying library is saying, okay, the window's closing. So now we have to get rid of the OpenGL context because it no longer has a home. So when the window closes, the OpenGL context closes. Well, all of the things that were created and associated with that OpenGL context are now still alive. They haven't been cleaned up. And the OpenGL context is dead. And so what ends up happening is when it garbage collects all of those things, because my app is closing, I'm done. It's exiting. There's nothing else to save. When it's exiting, it's going ahead and saying, okay, there are no more references to any of this stuff we want to garbage collect it. It's garbage collecting like the cube vertices and the shader program and all that stuff. It's trying to garbage collect it. And its disposable is trying to deallocate things from the OpenGL context. That OpenGL context is long gone, and so we're getting like basically unauthorized memory access errors because it's trying to access memory that has already been, probably reallocated in a lot of cases. So that's why we're getting the error. So what we need to do is when we exit, when our window is no longer open, we need to explicitly dispose of our shader, which has a relationship to the context, and our cube. And if we do those two things, we have our object, we hit exit, we have no more errors. Long-winded explanation, but what it looks like is anything that we create that's renderable is going to have to go through this wouldn't, in a release application, I doubt that. I think the operating system would probably just eat the errors. But I think it's probably good practice to go ahead and clean up all of that stuff, because I know in C++ you don't even have to worry about disposing of a lot of this stuff because it automatically goes away when you destroy the context. The problem here is that because we're using the C# to OpenGL relationship, it isn't sure that you've gotten rid of the context. Although, like, to me, I kind of feel like they could have some sort of logic that checks. Anyway, this is, I know we made it actually probably further than I thought we would. This is, basically we just used a bunch of example code to kind of show that, look, we can get something rendering to the screen. But I have to run right now because I have to work today. But I will probably do this at least every couple days. It seems like some people are interested, and so I'll make sure that all of this code is up on GitHub, and I'm going to probably create a YouTube channel that I can upload at least the recordings to, so in case anybody wants to go back and follow, you can. But anyway, thank you guys for the interest, and I'll probably be streaming some Dark Souls speedrunning later, because that's my true passion. But anyway, and don't fret if you guys wanna reach out, ask questions. We're gonna dive deep into this thing. We're gonna try to basically create a full-fledged voxel engine. So stay tuned there, and stay tuned there, and we'll continue probably tomorrow. At worst maybe Thursday or Friday. But we'll get into it there. Anyway, thank you guys again for hanging out, and until next time.